Want to know what a real sports bettor is betting in college football in week 6? Well, in this video, you're going to find out. Eddie Walls, welcome back. What is your best bet on the board in week 6, my friend?
Yeah, it's going to be Auburn and Georgia under 52.5. I have looked at this game like a lot. It was probably like one of the first things that I bet this entire week. And the reason why was pretty simple to me. I knew there would be an overreaction after last week's Alabama game. And I also know that Kirby Smart is pretty proud of his defensive heritage. And he doesn't have showings like that very often. Actually, I think it might be one of the only ones I've ever seen from him. I have a feeling they get back to being what they were thought of 2 weeks ago. They hadn't allowed a defensive touchdown until the Alabama game. I think they can be pretty conservative and push around the defensive line of Auburn. I also think that Hugh Freeze is a much better defensive coach than offensive coach than people think. I think that their defense is much further ahead than their offense. The only thing that gave me pause, obviously, is if Auburn starts turning the ball over quite a lot, because Peyton Thorne has that ability to do that from time to time. But to be square with you, I just couldn't get close to this number. I was pretty close to what most places opened at, like 49 and a half. And once it got above 52 and 53, it was just kind of a no-brainer for me. I really liked it. I'm not a big SEC guy, but I do play off of overreactions quite heavily.
So there you have it. Auburn, Georgia, under 52.5 is Eddie's best bet this week on the show. He is 4-1 so far on the show. So make sure that you are getting involved, because that's the probabilities are you're going to be happy that you did. Hey, real quick before we get into this week's slate of games, more college football FCS and extra releases are coming this week over at Right Angle Sports, as well as, I know we're both excited about this, Eddie, some NBA preseason. We're here. So go over to bettingtalk.com, all for $29 a month. It is the best value that you're going to find anywhere. Again, bettingtalk.com. All right, without further ado, and again, if you have questions, make sure you get those into the chat this week. Let's go. Week 6, starting it off with Syracuse on the road at UNLV. UNLV minus 6.5 with a total of 58.5. UNLV obviously got the juice with the new quarterback. Eddie, does that continue for a second week with the Running Rebels hosting Syracuse?
Yeah, I mean, boy, oh boy, they look like a powerhouse. I mean, I came into the season with pretty high expectations of UNLV, and they did some things against Kansas I didn't like. They won a game where they only had like 150 yards of total offense. But it looks like the quarterback is super legit.
Yeah.
And that's a small sample size of just one game. But Fresno doesn't have a terrible defense, quite honestly. And I mean, this is a really weird spot for Syracuse. It's a non-conference game. Before conference play, you have to fly across the United States on a short week of rest. I can only play UNLV. I looked at this game too long. When you look at a game for that long and you don't have a decision, in my opinion, it's just a pass. So that's what I did. I could only play under with what my numbers showed me. Do I really want to step in front of a Kyle McCord and UNLV running as fast as they do, under? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I don't have anything here. I definitely lean UNLV. It's hard to argue with any kind of talking points for them. Do you have any thoughts here?
Well, obviously I had UNLV as my best bet last week at 1.5.
Yeah.
Eddie, they scored 59 points on 56 plays.
Yeah.
They were averaging over a point a play.
Sure.
So what I would worry about is sort of just maintaining that, into the next week. I think, as we talked about, that team was definitely juiced up, especially really defensively. I mean, that's kind of where you saw them flying around. There's not a lot to like for me about Syracuse, but I just have pause in this game because I think that intensity is hard to keep week to week. You ride it for that one game, you just cream Fresno State, but I have not bet this. I don't imagine I will bet it, and the reason is because do we really expect the defense and Malik Williams to have a perfect game 2 weeks in a row? I would lean towards no in that regard. So I suppose maybe the under might be worth a look. Yeah, like you mentioned, because of those reasons. So, but beyond that, nothing in this for me. All right, let's move along here, Eddie. By the way, the chat says, we love Eddie.
Well, thank you.
How could they not?
I love you too, buddy.
What a horse you've been.
Send checks. Missouri
at Texas A&M. Texas A&M minus 2.5 with a total of 48.5 in this SEC tilt?
Yeah, I mean, this is a really, really interesting game for me because I was so high. I mean, absolutely high on Missouri. I think I had them as a top 6 team coming into the slate at the beginning of the year, and I just have not seen anything from them that makes me think that they're worthy of like backing. I mean, they have the best wide receiving core probably in the nation, is what I'm what I always read all summer long. I haven't seen any evidence of that. They really couldn't move the ball against Boston College. The defense is better than the offense. I mean, if you would have told me that in the summer, I would have been like, well, they're a fade then because they haven't really faced a team that can like really move it on them quite yet. They do this week. And then on the other side, I thought that Texas A&M with Wegman coming back would have a lot more juice on offense, and they're just been a straight up under. They run the ball pretty effectively with what Colin Klein does, but going out of my way to play this game didn't feel right. If it got to 3, then I was definitely going to consider Missouri. But this is another one where, like, at that point, like, I feel almost like I'm forcing a play. Preseason, I was like Missouri -4. I can't argue that Texas A&M should be a dog at this point. That's for sure. And I can't really get behind Missouri with what I've seen out of them. It looks like Brady Cook has almost regressed. Now, maybe that's because of schedule. But, I mean, if you're struggling to move the ball on Vanderbilt for all 4 quarters and you need an overtime missed field goal to win, how confident am I in putting real money on you? And then on the total, I'm also confused because I still don't know who the quarterback is for Texas A&M. It's very clear to me that he might not even play this season. It feels like the coaching staff likes the other guy and the philosophy that he runs with, which makes sense because he's more of a runner in Colin Klein's system.
Yeah.
But they're also neglecting the fact that they have 2 really good wide receivers that probably aren't getting touches. My numbers don't really have anything here. Do you have anything?
Got nothing. I agree with everything you said. Just trying to figure out that quagmire. I'll pass on the Texas A&M offense and the quarterback situation entirely. All right, moving right along. I'm going to stay in the SEC here. Tennessee at Arkansas. Tennessee laying 13.5 on the road with a total of 58.5 here, Eddie. What do you think?
I mean, 3 weeks ago, I would have been dying for a 58.5 with Tennessee and playing over. And then Arkansas just goes out the last 3 weeks and really doesn't move the ball very well. And I mean, it looks like what I kind of suspected, where Taylor Green probably isn't the real deal for quarterback situation there. You're going to have to run the ball with him against the Tennessee front that I don't think that you can run on. The only way you're going to have success is with pass. I'm right around this number. I'm at 14. I'm at 57, 50, between 57 and 56. I don't really feel comfortable with playing unders with Tennessee running the pace that they do.
Yep.
And also Arkansas is a little more improved on offense than they were last year. It's going to take a while for my number to catch up there.
Yeah.
Still, like, numbers are still catching up even 5 weeks in on some of these things. So yeah, it's just a pass for me. I would love to back Tennessee, but I mean, I was really hoping for like an 11 or a 10.5, something like that. I think Arkansas is kind of fraudulent, to be quite honest with you. I just feel like, I mean, Oklahoma State was their chance to kind of prove me wrong. They blew it in overtime, and then they've looked pretty bad against a really bad UAB team. Couldn't get anything done against Texas A&M. Yeah, I don't know. What do you have? Anything?
I don't hate a Tennessee bet. I mean, again, it's not like I don't think it's the best play on the board by any stretch of the imagination, but I mean, that UAB performance looks worse by the week. And I just think the inconsistency there from Taylor Green, I mean, it's going to be a high variance bet. There's no question about that. But I think Tennessee could have shown a lot more. And Josh Heupel almost kind of conceded that against Oklahoma.
Right.
That could have been a lot worse than it was. And they kind of pulled off there at the end because it was out of hand. And maybe he wanted to show a little bit more respect for Oklahoma and where he played. But that offense is incredibly potent. And I don't think 13.5 is crazy for them whatsoever. So I don't hate Tennessee minus 13.5, but you don't have a lot of room is what I would say. You don't have a lot of room here. All right, moving on to certainly I think a more intriguing game than it otherwise would have been. Clemson at Florida State. Clemson minus 14.5 with a total of 48. It's Brock Glenn time in Tallahassee. He's going to get a look this week with DJU and his injury. Any thought that maybe a new QB here brings some life to the Seminoles?
Yeah, actually, you have it marked wrong. It's actually 46.
Excuse me.
And
Okay, 46
yeah,
now.
and that's what I played over 46 this morning.
Okay.
And it's like what you just said. I just think that once you get away from DJU, it can only be a positive. And I've been looking for them to make this move for a couple of weeks now to do so. I also don't know if anybody can stop Clemson right now. Stanford absolutely shut down Syracuse the week before, and they really, really struggled against Clemson's offense, which I think is legit. I think the second year in this program and this system for Klubnik has made a world of difference. Nobody can really argue that. And they play fast enough to where there's enough possessions in this game. I still, I just can't believe that we're in week 6 and we're talking about a Mike Norvell offense that just can't seem to score. Like that just has never happened before.
I know.
So maybe it's a quarterback switch because he's going to scheme something up every single game to get points on the board. But if you have a quarterback that's thrown it 20 yards over everybody's head or doing checkdowns 7 out of 9 times when he drops back, I mean, and it makes perfect sense that you make the switch now because let's face it, if anybody knows Clemson, if anybody knows DJ's tendencies, it's Clemson. I did very, very close to flirting with taking Clemson, but I just felt like over was safer for me.
Great point. To your point, I mean, I obviously know Mike very well from his time at Memphis, and even watching, it felt like they didn't even attempt to scheme up anything for DJ. It was very underneath and low risk throws, and maybe that's just a lost cause at quarterback. I don't know, but I tend to agree with you 100% that there's talent, no question about it, on this offense, and maybe as we saw against UNLV, I should say, a new look there full time could re-energize everybody because Lord knows I don't think that defense could have taken one more series with DJ under center. So I
Also,
definitely think.
don't you think that this defense for Florida State has to be absolutely exhausted too? They've been on the
Yes.
field in
Yes.
every single game for
Yes.
like the time of possession in these games is just so lopsided because they do 3 and out so much
Yep.
that it's like, man, I just hope that I'm not missing the boat by not just laying it with Clemson. But I mean, like, I can't come close to 46. I'm just not going to lie to you. Even with that was my number like maybe 2 weeks ago before Cal had 415 yards on them. And then last week, SMU puts up like 40 points on them. Like, I think the defense is just going to quit on this team at some point. I know there's a rivalry game, and if you're ever going to back Florida State, this is probably the spot to do it. But I mean, there has to be upside with DJ being gone.
Exactly.
And the way I look at it is if Clemson's going to play with the pace that they've been playing, how much, I mean, I hate to say it, but if Florida State gets blown out in this game, Norvell's job is in like serious jeopardy. You can throw the 13-0 from last year out the window. You can't have this kind of performances week after week.
Yes.
I don't know.
And not to belabor the point here, but we're not asking very much from Brock Glenn. Like the job is to be a competent college quarterback. Like if he comes in and does that, then they will contribute to this total. And we'll find out. I mean, it could be an offense issue. Obviously, we'll find that out this week. But if he's competent, is kind of where I'm at with it. They'll contribute to this. All right, moving right along. UCLA at Penn State. Penn State minus 27.5. That might be out to 28 at some spots, and then a total of 47. RES did release the over on this game, I believe, and it was 44.5. Any thoughts here as we stand today, Eddie?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that teams have been taking it really, really easy on UCLA in second halves. Let's face it, Oregon could have probably scored 50 points in that game last week. They basically pulled the starters in the fourth quarter. I mean, they're playing slow as molasses for a purpose. They didn't cover the spread, so that was a bad beat if you had them. I mean, if James Franklin gets the chance to beat a conference rival at home after what happened last week, this game flies over because that he's not going to stop. Like, that there is zero chance that guy is going to be like, okay, well, Illinois held us to 21 points. We missed 3 field goals. All of our drives that ended up in the red zone didn't really result in points. And this is another team where I think UCLA is probably going to quit here soon. There's no upside. Where would you rank this coaching hire and this coaching staff compared to last year? It's got to be the biggest fall off that I can recall in forever. I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, you could say what you want about Chip Kelly and like how he kind of drug down the offense last year, but he won games with defense. This year, they don't have a defense, or do they have an offense? They might have a little bit of offense with Garbers, and they've got some good wide receivers. They can definitely score, 10 to 17 points every single game, but that defense is going to be a sieve here pretty soon, I have a feeling.
yeah, and it's wild that we knew this at media day.
Yeah,
I mean, at Big Ten media day, he comes out and he forgets what he's trying to say. You
yeah.
know, I mean, he's given us the history of the university. We're a campus in Los Angeles. We play in the Big Ten. Thanks. Yeah,
Isn't it weird? It's weird nowadays how we have so much access to so much media.
yes,
Like, you just reminded me of something. I mean, I'll touch on it really quickly. I hate to give away like stuff that's not like crazy in market, but it's an NBA thing. Did you happen to see the Jakob Podol press conference this week?
I think I might have an idea of what you're referencing. Yeah, now that
He
I
just
think
came
about
out and he just came out and said we're tanking. Like he just said it. Like he was just like, we have no reason to win every single game this year because we're trying to develop and we're trying to get draft picks. Like, I don't know how you read into that, but that seems like a pretty slam dunk regular season win total under to me. I mean, like,
Yep.
wow, okay. If your starting center is telling you that you have no intentions of winning every single game this year, it was the same thing with UCLA, like at media day. Like he came out completely unprepared, had nothing to say about his team. Like, it's just shocking that the amount of information that we get. I just remember like 10, 15 years ago, like having to look through newspaper clippings and like having to find like beat writers, like off the track kind of stuff, and now we just have like centers of NBA organizations telling you that they're not going to be any good. And, and we have coaches at UCLA that don't even show up for media day, basically. It's just crazy.
That's right. Yes, it is.
Sorry about the tangent.
They say the market's harder than it's ever been, right? Maybe it's easier than it's ever
been. It is and
been.
isn't. I mean, the numbers don't move quite like they weren't, but I mean, you get more information to work with. So it's like, it's a double-edged sword. Everybody has this. The problem is that everybody has access to the same information. So
that's right. As it always is, right? It comes down to who's quickest. So, it's in that regard, it's not too different. All right. And then finally, before we wrap it up with my best bet of the day and of the week, Michigan at Washington, minus 2.5 with a total of 41.5. Very interesting about this game, Eddie, is it's the first time since 1978 that a reigning national champion that's ranked in the top 10, as Michigan is, has been an underdog to an unranked team. So first time since 78. Saw that on Twitter earlier today. So that's the case here. Washington is a minus 2.5 point favorite over Michigan. Is that fair? Is that right?
I'm going to have to know what happened in 1978. Did the underdog cover or what happened? I'm just kidding.
That we need to find out what game.
Right. I mean, that's a serious trend. It's 46 years old. We got to get on top of that one.
That's right.
So let's see here. Michigan and Washington. What do I have to say about it? I don't trust Michigan at all on offense. I mean, they're running an offense that's built from 1978. They throw the ball about 9 times a game. Washington gains about 500 yards a game and somehow never scores. So good luck trying to make a total on those two teams. I mean, I can't possibly fathom being really confident in playing a Michigan over or a Washington over at this point. At that being said, I'm right around the number. I do kind of favor Washington. But I mean, I just came into the season knowing that Michigan had like a top 5, top 10 defense. I didn't expect them to turn this kind of thing into an offense. Like whatever they're doing on offense is so ugly to me that I don't know what to do with it. It's like Iowa, except they gave up points last week to Minnesota in the second half rather easily. They gave up points to Arkansas State in the second half easily. I maybe first half under is what I'm possibly thinking, but I mean, it's not going to be a real bet for me, so I don't even know why I'm discussing it. Do you have anything here?
Well, I thought, we were on Rutgers. The service was on Rutgers last Washington. And,
great.
I felt like I stole something, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, Rutgers was outplayed in every phase of the game. I mean, you name it. Just it really came down to a couple of missed field goals, right? I mean, maybe all 3 or 4 field goals he missed. So I kind of do like Washington on the back end here, but Michigan is playing a bit better since the quarterback switch, and so it's really nothing for me on it. But I did think Washington got extremely unlucky last week, and that but I think they're getting credit for that, right? As noted by them being favored. So I don't think we're pulling the wool over anybody's eyes here. Let's see here. Let's see if we have a couple of questions here. Ryan, we're going to put you on the spot. We're just gonna address this, Eddie. Ryan's asking, do you have a bonus bet this week? So you give people an inch, they want to take a mile.
I know. Yeah, I don't actually have it. Everything that I've bet is kind of moved quite a lot by this time of week. I was going to go with a different best bet, and then it just got whacked like 2 hours before we did shows. So like, good luck with that. And, I felt bad the one week that I did have the best bet lose, and then I was going to go with a different best bet and it won. So, I don't want to do that. Then I'll start overthinking this show, for God's sakes. I'm sorry.
That's right. We don't need that. Angelo asks, Service Academy under, I believe that's hanging around 35.5, Air Force and Navy.
No, it took money to the over today, which I was kind of surprised by. Yeah, I mean, it's up to 37 at most places.
Wow.
I mean, how do you stand behind a Navy offense that you've never seen before? Let's face it, that offensive coordinator probably is going to be in running for Coordinator of the Year awards here at the end of the season. I mean, I've never seen a Service Academy throw the ball this effectively and run this kind of offense, and they're not snapping it at 38 seconds before.
That's right. That's right.
Everybody talks about like these are just easy money, but they're referring to like a trend that goes back 20 years ago. We were betting Army Air Force under 49 back in 2013, 14. I mean, now we're talking about 37s, 35s. It's really hard to make numbers that low, especially when you have a team that's averaging 40 points per game, for God's sakes. Don't get me wrong. If Air Force is going to cover or stay in this game, they're going to have to play really slow and methodical. But I just watched like Wyoming just put up like 40 points on them. I don't know what they have on defense. I don't know what Air Force is this year. I've been around a long time. I've never seen this brand of Air Force before. I mean, 20% returning production from last year. And I go, well, it's Air Force. They'll be fine. They're Air Force, and they're not fine. So it was like Navy or pass, and I didn't have anything on the total personally.
Yeah, Drew Cronick is the offensive coordinator.
Yeah. Where'd he come from?
Mercer, Cronick, right? 2001.
Yeah, he came from Mercer. I remember doing some research on him in the summer. And I came away pretty impressed, but thinking like, is Newberry really going to allow him to run this offense? And turns out I was wrong. And yes,
real quick on Navy. I mean, you talked about having a different best bet, but it getting hit. That's kind of where I was at with Navy. But it was 8.5 at the open. Now it's 10. I mean, I don't want to give out 10, even if I might bet it myself, because this Navy team, as you mentioned, is so different. Like they've never had an offense like this. The quarterback Horvath is one of the best players in college football. I mean, he just flat out is. He's catching passes. He's throwing the ball well. He's running for 60, 80, 90 yards. They knocked off Memphis as a 9.5-point dog, and they dominated really after that first drive. So I really see no reason why they can't pick a number against this atrocious Air Force team. But it is a Service Academy game, and so therefore, it may be a reset. All right.
I will give you one reason. They're definitely not going to run it up if they get the chance. I just don't think that's not something that's going to happen in this game. If they get up 21-0, Navy's not going to air it out on Air Force. That's just not. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, I would be absolutely shocked if they were to do that. I mean, I just think that there's a lot of respect between these teams. So
agree totally. All right, and then we're gonna go over to my best bet. Eddie, I did it. Got off the schneid last week.
You're on a roll. We're on a
heater.
Keep it going.
On a heater, man. You can't talk about a perfect game in the fourth inning, though. We got to let it happen.
There you go.
We're going to have a game tonight. We're going to a Thursday night game in the Sun Belt, and we are going with Texas State minus 13.5, 15. I believe that's what it was before the show started, unless something has happened that I'm unaware of.
You're good.
I know that Troy is listing both quarterbacks, the top two quarterbacks, as questionable game time decisions. For me, I've watched quite a bit of Troy. I don't really care. I don't really care who it is. They're extremely limited in what they can do from a passing perspective. They did roll up over 200 yards on the ground against Louisiana Monroe last week, but I just think it doesn't matter who's playing quarterback, and this Texas State offense can score with anybody. So off of that devastating loss last week, I think they really look to pick a number here, and I'll lay it within 2 touchdowns. So Texas State minus 13.5, 15 would be my best bet of the week. That's going to do it for another edition of the RAS College Football Show. Appreciate everybody that tuned in this week. Before we get out of here, if you enjoyed the Week 6 preview, make sure you hit that subscribe button below. And if you're looking for more picks, consider heading over to raspicks.com/CFB to follow the college football service and bet the releases with us in real time. We'll see you next week. Eddie, you're the best, man. Good luck and thanks.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Good luck, everyone. Thank you so much.